Alright, how we doing? Today we're going to do a YLOD depth repair. I'm not going to show you how to dismantle the whole thing. There's other videos for that. But I just kind of show you how I do it here at the Old School Game Vault, which has had tremendous success doing it this way. So I'll just show you how I do it. First tools you're going to need, I have to use some No Clean Flux. You're going to need to get yourself some Arctic Silver 5, a Q-tip. I like to use a credit card, little credit card to put the Arctic Silver 5 in the chips. We'll show you. Use a paper towel. And then we're going to grab ourselves a heat gun here. I use a Wagner heat gun. I don't really think it matters. And then basically down here on the floor here, I got a little metal tray which I set the board on while I do the reflow process. So basically, what we have here is we actually have the board. I just took it apart. Like I said, I didn't want to show how take it apart, since that takes some time. But first what we're going to do is we're going to work on cleaning off the gunk, the old thermal paste off the chips. So what I like to do is just use a little paper towel just to clean the stuff off the top of it. And I'll use a little screwdriver here just to kind of clean some of the gunk off the edges. I'll just wipe the edges off real quick. Alright, so now that I have the chips nice and clean, what we're going to do before we start the refill process, we're going to put some No Clean Flux. What I like to do is just put this around the edges. No Clean Flux, I mean, you could do it without No Clean Flux, but I like to do it with it. Basically, it helps the solder ball up and attach to the surface. Well, in this case, the chips. Because theoretically, why we're doing the YLOD depth repair here is because the solder below these chips is separated from the board. So what we're going to do is take a little Q-tip, run it all along the edge of the chips. It's important not to get this on the board. So now, once I got that on there, now we're going to start the refill process. This is the top of the board where the chips are. This is the bottom of the board. As you see, it's a little dusty, but the heat gun blows all that dust away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the bottom of the board. Basically what we're going to do here is we're going to warm the board up. So I'm going to turn my heat gun on high, which roughly is about 1,000 degrees, and I'm going to warm it up at the bottom of the board for a good solid minute. What I'm going to do is make sure you go around in circle motions, back and forth. You don't want to keep the gun at one spot. You want to always constantly move it around so we can get the surface of the board nice and hot. One thing to consider, this right here, it's the ribbon for where the disk drive plugs into. We want to make sure we don't put a lot of heat on top of that because that is plastic and fragile. So just, avoid that while you're always moving the heat around so we get the whole surface of the board hot. Alright, now that the bottom of the board has been heated up for a minute, what I like to do is flip it over. Now we're going to heat the top of this board for 3 minutes, I like to do. Once again, I like to keep the gun about 3-4 inches up high, and I'm going to go around in a circle motion around the entire board. The idea here is to heat the whole entire board. But we're going to move it around so we get an even transfer of heat around the whole board. Okay, now that we have the board heated for 3 minutes, what I like to do is we're going to concentrate on the chips. At this time, my gun is still on high, and I'm going to get the gun about 1 inch away from the chips. What I'm going to do is I like to go around in the edges, all 4 edges, on this chip and this chip. These are our issues. This is why we get the YLOD depth. So as you can see, I'm just going to go right around these chips. I like to do this because we put the No Clean Flux around the edges. So this is how I start off. And once I've done that, then I'll just kind of go around in the circle motion. Circle motion, back and forth. And I'll concentrate on this area for 3 minutes. Now that we've successfully reflowed these 2 chips for 3 minutes, back and forth on each chip, what we're going to do now is we're going to raise our gun back up to 3 to 4 inches. And we're just going to cool down the top of the board. We're going to do this for a minute. We're going to go back and forth in a circular motion just to spread the heat out through the whole entire board. And this is going to cool our board down. Once we do this for exactly a minute, then we're going to let the board cool by itself for 20 minutes. Once the 20 minutes is up, then we'll put on the thermal paste, and I'll show you how. And my gun the whole time has been on high. I never turn the gun down to low. I keep it on high heat the entire time I do this process. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to apply the Arctic Silver 5, which is thermal paste. We're going to put a little line on the chip, a little line on this chip. Silver 5, you can get it at Radio Shack, you can order it online. It's only like $8 a little tube. I think this is like $13, $14 for the bigger tube. And what you're going to do is take your little credit card, and you're just going to put an even coat of the thermal paste on the chip. Like that. And we're going to do the other one. So that's our thermal paste. Now what we're going to do is we're going to reassemble, and then we're going to test it out. Generally, this process that I've just shown you, I've done it for hundreds and hundreds of consoles. This has worked great for me. Some other people might have some different ideas, but like I said, this way has worked great for me. The key is once you put it back together, I generally let them run for an hour just to make sure everything's cool. Sometimes if the power supplies are bad, you'll find that out after you run it for like an hour or so. Then going forward, and here's our moment of truth. As you can see, it turned on. So just like I said, after you get done, you get everything put back together. What I like to do is just leave it this way, just to make sure when you turn it back on that there's nothing wrong. I don't know. You might have to reconnect the Wi-Fi board or make sure everything works. Once that's done, then I'll run it for about an hour. Make sure everything tests out. Make sure the disk drive, everything works. Like what I tell everybody is monthly vacuum out all these vents right here. Just use your vacuum attachment on your vacuum, like your vacuum hose attachment. Just use that. Just suck all the dust and stuff out, and make sure you always turn it off when you're done. Don't leave it turned on or you'll fry it again. Alright, thank you for checking out the Old School Game Vault's YLOD Death Repair video. Take care. Happy reflowing.